This is going to be one of those stories I'm only doing not because I'm being asked to do it, but because somebody needs to make a comment on this. Lieutenant Colonel James Atwood, U.S. Army officer, Nazi memorabilia collector and salesperson who was known for making up fake stories associated with Nazi daggers to drive up the price. Now, this is called salesmanship, and it's literally done every single time someone buys any Nazi memorabilia. Because most of the shit you get from Nazi Germany has no story behind it. A very large portion of it, even if it was serialized, wasn't recorded anywhere. Because they went out of their way to try to destroy records and failed to do so because they were a bureaucratic Gestapo. So anyway, he presented after 1960 a serial number 2, which jack up its value. SDK M1939 gun. Claiming it was chambered in soft-nosed. Remember, 1960s, people thought, mercury-filled dum-dum bullets and stuff like that. This is actually common nomenclature and things people would say that get the attention of ignorant gun buyers. Cyanide-tipped, soft-nosed, illegal as hell, unmarked bullets. It was chambered in that. 9mm by 19? Okay, so it's a 9mm pistol, right? No, it looks like a double-barreled over and under shotgun. It's an over-designed piece of equipment that Harrison Ford's gold watch is less cumbersome looking. Okay? I mean, this is... someone's overselling it. He said it was commissioned in 1939 by a famous person, a Gestapo officer, Graf von Helldorf, and recovered from his home after the war. Well, how does he know it was commissioned by him? Where's the paperwork for that? Where's the records for it? Why would a Nazi officer try to create a weapon that could be turned on him that's tipped with cyanide that doesn't do what you think it does? This is getting crazy stupid. Anyway, this is a 1960s story. This happened after 1960. How? The supposed cyanide-based weapon with soft-nosed bullets that are illegal and blah, blah, blah in a really weird format got through customs or got through shipping or whatever after it was recovered after the war, no timing listed, and brought back to the United States from Nazi Germany sometime after 1960. When you're selling memorabilia, especially weapons or anything with serial numbers on it, serial number 2 means it's a prototype, not that it's the second one off the factory line. Next, contrary to a video I stopped watching, this was not commonly used by Nazi Germany, blah, 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 if there's only one surviving example, and it comes from somebody who's willing to falsify stories. Next, a 9mm pistol with a silencer on it, type in 9mm German Nazi pistol silencer. None of this shit was illegal. Tipping a 9mm bullet somehow with cyanide is dumb. It would present a health and safety hazard for the person using it. The dust coming off of it would hurt the person firing it. And it's fucking cyanide. In small amounts, it won't actually kill you. It screws you up. Potentially. But having a whole bunch of them in a magazine? Really? Anyway, the mythos of expanding bullets or dum-dum bullets was alive and well in the 60s and was actually discussed before, but really this is kind of bullcrap because you can get hollow point expanding ammunition now when it's not illegal. Well, the Geneva Convention doesn't cover whether or not you're shooting a deer. Sorry. It's about usage in war. It's a war crime, I understand. That has nothing to do with whether or not the police can shoot you with a hollow point. It's illegal. I'm going to scream this at the... Shut up. Just get off the internet. Anyway, the cock and bull story involving somebody who was a Nazi officer. Now, this is actually how you'd get a gun like this. The first words, and this is the reason I stopped, well, the police force in Nazi Germany used these. Okay, so what would you actually call this if this was really used in Nazi Germany and it was a common production weapon and you got number 2? Instead of you got number 1, you're number 2. Don't go number 2. Don't go full number 2. You'd say this was a police officer's pistol. It was used to be silenced for taking out hostage situations or taking out a person quietly, or to be used in environments for training that needs silence. Why would you silence the weapon? You have to explain why. Why would you silence a 9mm that way instead of... I mean, building something that looks like a double-barrel 12-gauge shotgun to silence a 9mm is kind of stupid. I mean, you could do that. Well, it was a bullpup. That's got nothing to do with it. Bullpup just means that you mount as much of the equipment behind, you make it to where the majority of it's barrel. There's specific reasons, but the main reason you have a bullpup is so that the thing has less rise when it fires. It's more stable. That's about it. You can get the same thing from a properly mechanically maintained gun. This is a 9mm. Granted, a 19mm, I have to ask, was that referring to the bullet for some reason? Or the cartridge length? Because it's probably the cartridge length. I don't know. No, I don't know. I mean, literally, I don't know. It looks like that's just the bullet length. But I don't know. Yes, there are cartridges that are declared one number and another number, and they actually refer to cartridge length or the bullet, and you actually have to read up on it. I found out the hard way that I shouldn't make the assumption. Neither should you. And this guy not saying, well, here's the bullet, or here it is, and saying it's an unmarked cartridge. Unmarked, soft lead dum-dum, cyanide tip, Nazis, number 2 serial number, and it had to be made by somebody in the Gestapo because the Gestapo's always bad guys. Or he could have just had it commissioned after the war was done and tried to sell it because he was known for falsifying stories about daggers. He also sold probably fake Nazi daggers, even though that's unnecessary. I know a guy in town who makes them. I used to make authentic, faked Chippendales and authentic, faked antique clothing boxes and furniture and hope chests. We'd beat them with logger chain. There's a specific variety of logger chain that there's no weld on it, so it's rounded off. So you can beat it and it just looks like it's old-timey. And you coat it in certain patterns and then skin it back off and rub it down with Brillo pads and stuff like that. You make it look real old. And one of the easiest ways to make something look authentic and old and antique was to paint it with the wrong color over really beautiful work and then peel it back after leaving it outside for a few months. Eastern Oregon, actually for a full year, because it'll go through cold and hot cycles. Do it 2 years if you want it to look really old. Just make sure it doesn't delaminate. Make sure you make a really good piece of furniture. It's a fake, okay? I'm sorry, it's a fake. It's too convoluted. Nazis are notorious for doing really dumbass machinery, but this is a one-off. At best case scenario, he got this as a one-off design somebody made as some weird fantasy item, or an experiment to make a silenced pistol. But it's an overdone design. It's really badly done. And the one surviving version of it's been sold to a collector who will never acknowledge that they got a fake. There's lots of people who have fake items, and they'll never say that they are, even though they know that. Now, why would I cast aspersions on this subject? It has nothing to do with it being James Atwood or the person who bought it, or Nazi Germany, or Graf von Helldorf on golf, or nuts, and none of this. It has to do with something simple. As a weapon, this is an impractical and stupid design when you can take something about as complicated as every other silencer on the planet that could go over any other 9mm of any kind. Not kidding. And honestly, again, I have to point this out, even Nazi Germany people figured this out really quickly. A built-in silencer. A silencer is only effective if you're firing a bullet that's pretty weak. It has to be going below the speed of sound, or it will be heard. You're not making a silenced weapon. It just makes it less noisy for you. That's why having a ban on silencers, suppressors, is stupid. It doesn't really give you that much of a tactical advantage. It does make it to where, over a very long distance, you can confuse people as to where you are. It hides your location for immediate reprisal. And yeah, a sniper could use it, and an assassin could use it at long range. Maybe. But at short range, shooting in a populated area, firing pistols like John Wick and all that, no, that doesn't actually work at all. It really doesn't, unless it's a subsonic bullet. In which case, you want to use a 50 caliber subsonic bullet, and you definitely could run it through a silencer and it would work like that. But you'd end up with a 50 caliber pistol that would have maybe 5 shots, and it would look like you were firing a 12 gauge pistol. In fact, at that point, you'd be better off firing 22s, but you could fire something about, it would look like a 12 gauge pistol. Look up 12 gauge pistol, they actually do exist. You can make one. and have it fire, you need a minimum ratio for the diameter. So at that point, 50 caliber would be pushing it, and you could silence it. It'd be almost a foot long, and you could do that. That's a naughty joke there you're thinking about, and it would work, and it'd be immediately much more functional than this. You could fire 45s out of that. So, and that's pretty close to this design. But this design, it's overdone. It's made crazy looking. It's designed to be a showpiece and a conversation starter, not a practical weapon. And the other claims that are made with it that I've seen intermittently. At one time, he claimed all the police had it, or only the secret police, or only just one guy. Yeah, because So anyway, that's my long, drawn-out rationalization and irrationalization. Now, why would they do that? As a test bed to test out ammunition. Look for other parts in it. Look for changes in it. Look for design changes. You can look up guns all over the place that are one-offs, like serial number 1 and 2, if they did it, to keep track of the parts, where you see all sorts of design changes where they drilled holes and filled them back in, or they filed things down and then put sleeves over it. I just watched a video on Forgotten Weapons about a Volks pistol being done that way. The Volks pistol from Germany is a very good example of a real pistol done in Germany. It was supposed to be handed out to people as a last resort weapon in case of invasion. They eventually switched over to giving them flare guns that could actually shoot real ammo. This channel isn't inspired by that, but it's kind of funny they did about the same thing. Instead of giving them these pistols were actually quite effective, technically, but they went through lots of revisions. The only surviving examples have shit tons of changes in them, and they have serial numbers as well, and they're legit. Does this thing show lots of signs of going through beta testing? Does it show any signs of being fired? Does it still work? Are there any surviving examples of people who might have designed it? All the people who've been contacted about it that might know what the hell they're talking about, just say, no, that's not real. And I'm an idiot on the internet. Don't listen to me. I'm going to include a link to the only thing I found. This is funny. There's a fandom wiki for guns, of course, and it's called the SDK Silenced Rifle, and the naming of it is the M1939. The only M1939 I can find other than that is an automatic 37mm automatic air defense gun from Russia. Guess when it was made? It's also called the 61K. If you're not aware of it, the 35mm diameter is also used by flare guns. Flareception. There's a reason I look up all these oddball... ForgottenWeapons.com and Forgotten Weapons YouTube channel are my two favorites, because I go there to look at the weird shit, because you get to see all the experiments that worked or didn't work, and you get to see all the changes they made. I love the experimental and testbed guns. My entire channel is dedicated to this. This doesn't look like that. This looks like somebody coming up with some sort of weird design, getting somebody to build it, probably the 5th or 6th time he tried to do it, and got a gun manufacturer to do it. My channel, if you're not aware of it, will eventually be discussing how to prototype, well, in this case, weapons, but really flare guns on purpose. I'm not kidding about it. To create a 50 caliber flare gun that works and is effective and has a 1,000-foot range upward and only fires upward. I want to make an improved version of the flare gun that isn't in a caliber that would normally be used for shotgun shells, and I'm going to use an oddball caliber. It'll be called a 37 gauge shotgun. I don't know what I'll do. Something like that. But the point is, the channel is going to be discussing continually, if you're not aware of it, how to prototype something that has to do something extreme. Jet engines, rocket engines, guns, wheels on a bicycle take a lot of stress and concentrate it, that sort of thing. I've always been fascinated with this, but guns are the best examples of it because, as a previous video, if you fire a blank or you fire a real bullet, you're better off making a blank-only gun and a bullet-only gun, because trying to make a gun that'll do both will suck for both of them. If I'm going to make a loud noisemaker gun, a real one to scare somebody, and I'm not trying to make a pistol out of it or shotgun, I will make a noisemaker that's specifically made to sound like the biggest fucking gun I can, but doesn't look like a gun. Because I don't want to die because someone mistakes it for a gun, and I want to scare someone away without hurting them. So I'm not going to be making a gun for that. Same thing with a flare gun. It shouldn't look like a gun, but that's the best way to do it, we find out, because if you make it look like anything other than a flare gun, they shoot themselves in the foot or shoot somebody next door because they don't know what to do with it. People intrinsically know how to use guns if they're in normal culture like you and me. But anyway, yeah, this is probably a fake, and it's not practical, and it's not a prototype. It's bullshit. Thanks for watching. Bye.